Hi everyone, Magna Gopal here. I recently had the chance to do an interview with New Swing Sextet for the Salsa channel, and unfortunately my video ran out before my audio ran out, so for those of you wondering why there's just going to be an image at the end of the video, it's because we recorded a lot more audio than we had video for. So continue listening because the interview is very interesting with them. They've got some fantastically interesting stories. So I hope you enjoyed the interview and see you all soon. Hi everyone, Magna Gopal here, and I am sitting today with the legendary Grammy-nominated New Swing Sextet, George Rodriguez and Angel Estiniano.
Hi.
Thank you guys for joining me today.
Hi. Thank you for the invitation.
I wished I had a chance to interview the whole band. We tried to do that last time, but I'm very glad that you guys were able to make time for the interview today. So, it's been a long time that you guys have been around. 51 years, is it?
52.
52 years, okay.
Yeah.
What made you start New Swing? What brought that band together, and why did you guys get into Latin music in particular?
Well, for me, I mean, when we started the band, we were kids in school, and at that time Latin music was big in the city. And if you were a teenager, you wanted to be in a Latin band. That's really what it was. The influences, I imagine that for Angel it was the same type. You know, I used to listen to a lot of Motown, rock and roll, Beatles, you know, everything else that people were listening to at that time. And for me personally, it was a buddy who had already taken the dive into Latin music, and he was always telling me, "You got to come with me to a dance," and I wasn't really that interested because I was cool with, you know. But yeah, he dragged me one night to a place in the Bronx called the Colgate Gardens. This was 1964, I think, and a band playing there with a leader by the name of Eddie Palmieri, who I didn't know who he was. You know, they came out, they had little tuxedos on, they looked so prim and proper. That was the original La Perfecta, and when they started playing, it just blew me away. You know, I was instantly hooked. And he was a big Cal Tjader fan. Cal Tjader, of course, a legendary vibe player. And I remember he was always talking to me about Cal Tjader. I had no idea who Cal Tjader was. So just an interesting name. And so anyway, after we saw the Palmieri show, I went up, called him up the next day. I said, "You got any more music I can listen to?" You know. So he said, "Yeah, we're going to listen to Cal Tjader." So he started playing the Cal Tjader stuff, and I said, "Wow, that's really nice." And he just happened to have a little set of xylophones, like from a high school band or something. And since I had taken music while I was in school, you know, played saxophone and clarinet, so I was a little familiar with music. So I started messing around, and I said, "Can I borrow these for one night and some of your music?" So that's what I did, and I started learning the tunes, and then it was just a matter of getting the guys together. Oh, and yeah, before that, after I saw the Palmieri show, I mean, I wanted to have a Latin band right away. And I started calling people up. It didn't matter who you were or how good you were. The main thing was to have a band, you know. Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
Yeah. So I couldn't get anybody interested because I just was a clarinet player. But then when I started messing with the vibes, and that's why I got the vibes, I said, "Wow, maybe it'll be something cool enough. I got vibes. You want to join the band?" And that's kind of what we did.
That was your pull.
That was the pull. Oh shit. Oh snap! He got vibes. So yeah, that's how we started. We were pretty awful in the beginning.
Did you start off with a sextet? I mean, was that
No.
Did that just happen? Or?
Yeah, it was actually a small group. We didn't even have a bass player. We didn't know we needed a bass player. Yeah, and now you know.
So naive.
And now it's like, you know, shout out to Harry and to all the other bass players. That's, in my opinion, the most important instrument in the band. It's the heartbeat. It carries the bow and everything. And we had a band and we didn't know that we needed a bass player. You know, that's how it was. So it was a couple of months of making noise, and then we finally kind of got in stride, and we got the band started, I guess, in 1965, and pretty terrible, but in pretty short order, within 2 years, we had released our first album, which was not a masterpiece, but considering how bad we were when we started, it was fine. You know, it's entitled The Explosive New Swing Sextet, which we released in 1967 under the Cotique label. Of course, the craze at that time was the Boogaloo. Johnny Colon, who was also on the Cotique label, had done the classic Boogaloo Blues, and so our producer wanted us to be a Boogaloo band, which we weren't really a Boogaloo band, but we were from New York, so it was cool. You know, we did, and I sang a number of the songs, and they have to be some of the worst recorded vocals in the history of music. Because, and the reason was we had a great Latin singer, Pete Ortiz, but he really had an accent. And it's weird because, you know, right, you hear a lot of guys sing, and when they sing, they lose the accent.
Right.
Pete didn't lose the accent; it became even more.
Became
So it was kind of a lineup. Who else in this band sing? And the original band, there were no singers other than Pete. I was the only other one who could hold a note, so I was elected to record and sing those songs. And every time I cringe, you know, it's like cringe-worthy. But you know, people seem to. 40 years later, we found out that people like the stuff.
So, do you remember your first gig?
It's widely reported that our first gig was at the New York World's Fair, the Singer Bowl in 1965. That's not exactly true. That was our first big gig. And it wasn't a big gig in the sense that we were paid to be on the show. It was like a talent show.
Oh wow, okay.
And but it was the Singer Bowl, it was the World's Fair. I think before that we had done a church gig. That's the first gig that we played. And I think the Singer Bowl might have been the second, if I'm not mistaken, the second or third gig. But yeah, all of a sudden we were in an arena with 5,000 seats, and wow, we've arrived, you know. So that was the first important one.
And back then you guys performed with some other legends, right? I mean, what was that like, and any memorable experiences or funny stories from back then?
Probably. I think some of the funniest stories are actually more recent.
Came after.
Yeah, when we with the traveling, we have a couple of great travel stories. But no, in that time it was. I mean, the thing that was so different then to now is that because Latin music was so big, there were Latin clubs on every corner, there were after hours, so there was plenty of work for the bands. You know, as a matter of fact, at that time, we routinely worked 5, 6, 7 nights a week, which is kind of unheard of now, and we were kind of a startup band.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was with Tito Puente, with Joe Cuba, Ricardo Rey. We played a lot with Willie Colon because Willie and Hector Lavoe, they were just a couple of years younger than us, so we were kind of coming up the ranks together. Of course, Orchestra Broadway,
Wow.
Machito. We never got to play with Tito Rodriguez. Ricardo Rey was an awesome band when they started. So we played with everybody.
There was such an influx of bands back in those days.
Right.
I mean, there was literally tons of bands out there that the record companies really couldn't handle a lot of them. But everybody wanted to record because everybody wanted to become a musical star.
Right.
Listening to these big names like Eddie and like Puente and all of them. All these bands wanted to do the big night with Latin music. So
Right.
the influx of music, I mean, there was tons of them. Wherever you turn, you had one song hit.
One hit wonders.
Yeah, one hit wonders out there because a lot of bands came out, did one hit, and you remember them for that song, and that was it. Then they disappeared.
Right.
But there was so many of them, and I mean, I came in a little later, and it's true what George says. We grew up in the streets of New York, so we were influenced by a lot of other stuff. We weren't strictly Latin. We were doo-wop. We were Motown. We were rock and roll. So our influences came from another angle.
Right, from a different genre.
The New York sound.
Yeah,
Right.
New
Yeah.
York sound.
Right.
And that's what became, and I tend to title our music New York Salsa because that's exactly what it is. We
So
were all
it's
street
mixed.
musicians, and it came from the streets of New York, and a lot of the musicians that I know that I grew up with were self-taught musicians.
Right.
A lot of them never went to school for it. They listened to records and they went home and they learned the instruments and they got together and they would put their sound together. And I think that this is where that boogaloo sound came from.
That is so impressive.
Yeah, the boogaloo sound, exactly, because it was the Latin music with all of the influences around it, right? It's basically a cha-cha with English lyrics. And not always English lyrics, because Pete Rodriguez, of course, had like tunes like Micaela and a few other tunes that were done in Spanish. But yeah, it was that groove. I mean, the first song that I heard that I think, and it's reported this way, actually two tunes that I heard that created or were the upstarts to Boogaloo. One was Mongo Santa Maria.
Yeah.
He did Watermelon Man.
Oh yeah.
You know, which is a real, it has a really that Boogaloo groove. I don't think it was called the Boogaloo. The other one was Cal Jader, who did Soul Sauce, Wachiwara. Yeah, if you heard it, I mean, that's a really, it's a commercial tune. It's really nice. It's great. Yeah, if you haven't heard it, I'll send it to you. Yeah.
I thought you were going to sing it for me.
Oh no, I can. No, it's
add some humming.
Yeah, no, it's an instrumental tune.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing they say parts of the way to the record is Wachiwara. You know that. Yeah. That I think, and then Johnny Colon did Boogaloo Blues with the lyrics, and then all of a sudden everybody had to do. Yeah, I mean, Puente had to do Boogaloo, and Palmieri. Everybody had to do Boogaloo.
Everybody was forced to go into that genre of music, the Boogaloo. Even the big bands. I don't think that they knew what was going to happen. So in order to stay within the realm of all, they had to do a Boogaloo.
Right.
And everybody did one. I mean, Puente did it. I mean, I think that even Tito Rodriguez did a Boogaloo. Yeah, so I would say that everybody got they got scared. They said, you know, these kids are going to knock us out of here, so we better start doing something else. And they started doing.
But it wasn't the Boogaloo wasn't offensive in any way, so you know.
It wasn't offensive, but it was a pretty strong force, and even the record labels tried to pin it down somehow, because it was just too forceful,
too influential.
Maybe the English lyrics.
Yeah,
right.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so that's the background, I guess, the start of
some
music.
of the background. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.